Predators looking to get back on track against the Washington Capitals Tuesday night. Can they do it? We'll bring you the keys to the game, how we think the Predators can get back in the win column tonight. Plus, it's one of the big stories in the NHL. Alex Ovechkin, he's coming to town. Can he break Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal record? That's the million-dollar question. We'll look to see how much of that is actually possible. Do we think he'll wind up doing it? That's a conversation coming up today on Locked On Predators.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. We are on the run. I'm the getaway driver. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm also a writer at ontheforecheck.com.
Yes, good to know you're there if any larceny is committed on my end.
I got you. Don't worry.
Well, let's hope the Preds gotcha win tonight. They take on the Washington Capitals at home at Bridgestone Arena. And it's February. I'm not going to use the term must win at all because that'd be very hyperbolic. But at the same time, if you're the Nashville Predators, this kind of feels like one you probably need to have a good effort in.
No, I would agree with you. And I wouldn't necessarily say must win, but I would say a win would be really important for a couple reasons. Number one, the Nashville Predators have to end this 2-game losing streak. And it's a streak that they've lost for very obvious reasons. So we need to see correction in games. I also think it's important because I think a lot of people in the NHL aren't taking the Nashville Predators seriously. And this is one of those games, regardless of records or players or injuries. This is one of those games that feels like a game that people will look at and say, see, they can't hang with the Washington Capitals, or see, look at this. This is a team that can beat a team like the Washington Capitals. So I feel like for a number of reasons, Nashville needs to have a strong game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels like, I don't want to say people are souring on the Predators, but, I feel like people have kind of looked at this last little, I guess, sort of average bump over the past month or so and kind of pointing and saying, well, they're kind of the Preds that we thought they were going to be at the end of the year. But, it's interesting because I think Matthias Ekholm said it a little bit. I mean, the parts of their game aren't bad. Like, not playing awful game-wise, but they are making a lot of critical mistakes at critical times. And you look at the standings, I mean, the Preds have fallen back to third, but St. Louis, who's right behind them, has played fewer games. You have Dallas, who's starting to get hot. So this is critical. Like, this is a critical stretch. And this is the part of the season where if the Predators have more games like they did against Winnipeg and Dallas a couple of games before that, I mean, you could seriously kind of question, are they still going to be in playoff contention? Are they going to be good enough for a spot?
Yeah, and it does not help that the Central is as stacked as it is this season. Like you said, at points we were right behind Colorado. Now we're barely ahead of St. Louis. These are tough teams in a very competitive division, and the games in hand seem so wonky to me. It just makes me a little bit crazy. Like, what has everybody else been doing while Nashville's been playing hockey? But
battling COVID, apparently.
I mean, I guess. So, thank you to all the Predators for washing their hands. Now we need to win some games.
Other than that 1 week right before Christmas.
That's true. We did have a little hitch in the giddy up there. But I do think that this is a game that's really important for Nashville. I don't think anybody in the NHL really has yet taken the Nashville Predators seriously this season. That's just my take on it. But I think those of us in Nashville know this team has a tremendous amount of potential. But they're not going to be able to drop games like tonight's game and continue to have the faith of the hockey community. I think this is one of those games where we're going to need to see you learn from your mistakes. That's all we really want to see. Learn from your mistakes.
Key to life, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's not, nobody likes growth, as I always say in my house. Nobody likes growth, but let's do it anyway, Nashville.
Let's do it. Let's take a look at the team on the other side, Washington Capitals, and then we'll get into some of the keys to the game. Yeah, the Capitals are kind of an interesting team themselves because they started out super hot at the beginning of the year. Everybody was kind of wondering, it's like, wow, that looks like the team that won the Stanley Cup. But then they too have sort of leveled out 12-12-4 over their last 28 games. So, points there, they're not exactly tearing up their division. And so they're kind of falling back into their pack a little bit after being first for most of the year. They got leapfrogged by Pittsburgh and the Rangers. So, yeah, I mean, they're kind of an interesting team too, Anne, because they are – their expectations for the Preds are a lot different, obviously. I think a lot of people are expecting to be one of the best teams in the East. But yeah, they're kind of falling into the same sort of rut the Preds are, where they're just kind of losing either average to sloppy games.
Yes. Well, and you look at their last 10 games, they beat Montreal. They did beat Pittsburgh in overtime, beat Dallas, must be nice, and beat Ottawa. But they also lost to Ottawa, lost to the Blue Jackets, Edmonton, San Jose, Vegas, and Boston. So this is a team where you're almost not sure what you're going to get. And I think that feeling is sadly a little bit too familiar. It's starting to rumble in the gastrointestinal system here in Nashville. Like, oh, okay, which team are we going to get? Are we going to get the team that we really, really like? Are we going to get the team that just keeps committing penalties and can't quite pull out the wins we need here in Nashville? So I'm thinking that people in Washington may be having kind of the same vibe here. And one of the things that I think is very interesting is that Washington is on a 5-game losing streak at home. So I'm thinking they're probably pretty happy to get out of Dodge and play a game here at Bridgestone. They haven't lost 5 in a row at home since November of 2007. Home is usually, they're the kings of their castle. It's not been that way. So I think the fans in Washington are not as happy with their team as they're used to being.
Yeah. Crazy times in Washington, D.C., I guess.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's funny because, you look at the Capitals and you kind of expect, oh, well, they're falling. They must have guys on a slump. Not really. I mean, Ovechkin certainly cooled down from the pace he was at the beginning of the year, but still, close to being like a point per game player over his last, last month or so. And still 60 points this season overall in 48 games. So he's obviously there. They just got Nicholas Backstrom back from injury. That's huge. Really, like the only big noticeable loss they've had is TJ Oshie over the past month. But, guys are still producing. And so that does kind of make you go back to, how it is on the Preds side and kind of thinking, okay, well, let's nitpick the game. And then that's when you see for Washington, just some of those like little moments, like little lapses that teams jump on and take advantage of them. So this really is interesting because it's kind of like a style of two teams. And we can also make a joke about the Capitals being that sort of team when we look and see who their head coach is.
Oh my goodness. Been there, done that, have all the t-shirts. Yeah, Peter Laviolette coming back to Bridgestone Arena. Not sure how everybody feels about that. This is an interesting one for me, Nick, because I think for the most part, people think relatively fondly of Peter Laviolette. I, on the other hand, carry him in my invisible backpack of hockey grudges because of the whole tourist gate. But yeah, Peter Laviolette coming back, and it's interesting to see a team in a situation where Nashville has been before and very familiar with. So gonna see if Laviolette can come back into Bridgestone and walk away with the win. I think there's definitely some things Nashville can do to prevent that from happening if they execute correctly.
Yeah, and we'll talk about a couple of the things that the Preds can do to come away with the win. Plus, we talked about Alex Ovechkin earlier. Do we think he's going to retire as the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer? Is Gretzky's record finally going to fall? We'll talk about that. First, though, want to mention today's show is brought to you by our friends at Primal Origin Oils. If you got beard, get Primal. If you or somebody you care about has a beard, it needs to get Primal. Maybe you're someone who's never considered the benefits of treating your beard with product. If you haven't, trust me, Primal Origin Oils will stop the itch and make your beard look healthy and groomed. The products are free from harmful synthetic ingredients and they have a low impact on our planet. Primal Origin Oils makes balms, oils, and wet butter that are renowned as the best feel in beard products available. All are fair trade certified and handcrafted here in the USA. Trust me, as somebody with wonderful little beard, I can tell you a little dab of oil or product can certainly make it feel softer and a lot less itchy. I'm sure Matthias Ekholm, with his wonderful scraggliness of greatness, will also testify to that. I'm sure, like I am 100% sure. We know that every company claims to have the best, but Primal Origin Oils challenges you to compare their ingredients and feel their beard compared to other products you've used. We promise you'll see and feel the difference. Remember, the code LOCKEDON gets you 20% off at primaloriginoils.com. Again, use the code LOCKEDON, all one word, at checkout for 20% off. Well, and yeah, we were talking Predators versus Capitals tonight at Bridgestone Arena, 7 o'clock Central Puck Drop. Tomorrow's show will, of course, have the full recap of that. We'll also have Western Conference Wednesday. Who's rising, who's falling in the Western Conference, taking a look at some of the Preds' potential foes down the road. But still plenty of business to take care of for tonight's game, Ann.
Yeah, we do. So tonight we've got Washington Capitals coming in. One of the things that I think is so interesting is when I think of the Washington Capitals, I immediately, of course, think of Alex Ovechkin, which we're going to talk about him in just a minute. But I think of him lined up in the circle on the power play, just railing on some poor unsuspecting goalie. But when you look at their statistics, Washington is not doing as well on the power play as my mind would have me believe. They're only at 15.54%, which is below league average. Their penalty kill also a little below league average at 78.83%. So I think there may be a window of opportunity here for the Nashville Predators. Of course, all of this relies on the fact that the Predators are not going to commit foolish penalties. Am I right or am I right?
That certainly would seem to be a key.
Yes, wouldn't it though?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Washington and it's like the Preds, kind of a one-line power play. You know, they load up the Ovechkin line. Kuznetsov and Backstrom and Carlson are all out there as well. And that's the key, is just kind of make plays until Ovechkin can fire off that shot. And, you know, if teams are kind of cheating him a little bit, you know, kind of, you know, blocking that lane or pushing him, you know, that's when you give it down to Kuznetsov or somebody like that down low who has a wicked shot. But it's been a one line, and that's kind of been a key for teams this year in stopping that power play, is kind of load up on that one line. You know, put your top penalty killers out there no matter what. Just have them survive kind of that 130 onslaught that they're probably on the ice for. And then go off and call it a day, because you know your second unit, no matter how good or how bad it is, you know they're going to be able to contend with that second line, because there's not really anybody on there. I guess Lars Eller, sure.
I mean, he's nice.
Connor Sheary,
Lovely.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, but I mean that's it. Like, all you have to do is put your best guys out there against that Capitals line, try to shut Ovechkin down, like from that circle, like do whatever you can to get him from getting that shot off, and then you're golden.
Yep. Well, and it really helps. I think an advantage for Nashville is they have back two of their better penalty killers, Matt Benning and Mark Borowiecki. I think they have been phenomenal on the kill this season, and they were both out at different times. We got them back last game. So hopefully that combination will also boost the penalty kill, which has it's been okay, but let's just make it better than okay by not committing penalties. That, of course, is going to be a huge key. We've talked about this week. We've talked about the penalties and the issues Nashville has had. So they've got to stay out of the sin bin. What's another key you think, Nick, to the Predators coming away tonight with 2 points?
Well, I think you have to dominate the second and third periods tonight because that has been a key for the Predators. We talk about fast starts. And the Predators have certainly gotten out to fast starts. They play pretty well in the first period of games over the past month or so. But as the games get on, you kind of see them faltering a little bit. They start making a little bit more mental mistakes. They start being a little bit more careless with the puck as the game goes on. That's what you have to eliminate tonight. And if I'm John Hines, I'm really stressing the importance of that second and third period. Because when you look at kind of the Winnipeg game where they came out so strong and then, in the second, third period, they started kind of having those lapses.
Yes.
That to me is a sign of fatigue. So if I'm John Hines, I'm saying it's like, look, we want to get out to a fast start. We want to play balls to the wall, but make sure your focus is there for the rest of the game. Don't burn yourself out early. Like, save some for the rest of the game and the stretch run where it counts.
Yeah, no, and I think we saw, like you said, we saw a classic case of that in the Winnipeg game, up real quick with 2 easy goals. And I think there's also a mental component of that as well as a physical component to that. And I think that's something that the Nashville Predators are growing in, is their mental game. I think that's been a huge focus for John Hines this whole season. And I think this is a game where you can see them, take this opportunity to grow in that, stay committed to the 60-minute game. Another thing I noticed as I was watching back some film from the Washington games that they've had recently is they have some of those sharp angle shots that have beat UC Saros before this season. And so that's one of those things that makes me a little nervous. Really want the Nashville Predators and the defense to eliminate some of those sharp angle shots that Washington has scored with recently. We talk about people saying UC Saros is a little bit smaller in net, and I don't think we see much of that. But sometimes on those sharp angle goals, it feels like maybe he just doesn't take up quite all of the space on that side. Not that he is not able to compensate for that. Thank you very kindly. But I think that's definitely something that the Nashville Predators need to keep their eye on tonight. The defense is going to have to help UC Saros out on a number of places, but I think especially those sharp angle goals.
Well, it's funny because it's counterintuitive, isn't it? Like, you want to leave those sharp angles and kind of be like, you know what, we'll take this shot all day.
Yes.
So you don't just have a wide open look at the front of the net. So, I mean, that's an interesting play for the Preds because that kind of goes against everything you want your defensive scheme to be. Like,
yes,
you would rather have them taking those weird shots kind of down by the goal line than you would like right in front of the slot or from the point.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you definitely don't want to treat the slot like it's lava. You can't abandon that. But Washington has been really, really good lately from those spots. And so I think it's something the Predators have to be aware of and the defense has to be aware of. A lot of options for the Washington offense, but of course Alex Ovechkin is the one that we're all going to be watching, and we're going to be talking about him coming up in our next segment. But first, want to let you know that our friends at Bet Online are here for you. Football may be over for the season, but basketball is full steam ahead in both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, land, betonline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And of course, it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, for boxing and UFC odds, right to Olympic coverage and information. You can head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action going on in sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So the big story for the Washington Capitals, or at least in the grand scope, the NHL, is Alex Ovechkin is chase to breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal scoring record. He is, he's got a long ways to go in his career. He currently has 759. That is over 100 to go for him. So that's kind of the interesting question, Anne. Can Alex Ovechkin break Wayne Gretzky's record? This has been a hotly contested one for quite some time.
Yeah, I think when you look at the math, it doesn't seem likely, but then you look at who is behind the math and you think, okay, Alex Ovechkin, 36 years old, 17th season in the NHL, and still producing well. There's always that bell curve of the, NHL hockey player where they begin to taper off. And while his numbers aren't the same as they were early in his career, he is still very productive. So, you look at this and you think, okay, if Ovechkin can stay healthy for a couple more seasons, this might be doable. Now I do think one of the bigger questions is it good for hockey if Ovechkin breaks Gretzky's record?
What do you mean by that?
Well, look, hockey, I think, probably has a less familiar audience than some of the other major sports, and in football, you have these, kind of generational players that everybody kind of knows. You have Dan Marino, you have Tom Brady, so you have these generational names. Wayne Gretzky is just the hockey player everybody knows. And there's a part of me that wonders if it isn't good for Gretzky to stay the great one.
I mean, he's still going to have the points record by a mile, and he's still going to be the great one. That is a take, Miss Ann Kimmel. That is a take. I think a chase like this is fantastic for the sport because people want to see history being made. Think back to the home run chase, when Barry Bonds was chasing Hank Aaron, and then earlier in the year, or a decade earlier, when it was like Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa chasing Roger Maris. Think whatever you want to think about those people, but you still watch it. Like, you still watch to see it happen. Like, everybody was tuning in every at bat for Bonds, McGwire, Sosa, and just seeing, is this the time they're going to do it? Are they going to take a step closer? You want to watch because you want to be a part of that history. And of course, the thing Alex Ovechkin has over those guys is Alex Ovechkin is likable. Like, he is one of the most likable. He is one of the most likable players of our generation. I mean, outside of the great city of Pittsburgh, you're not going to hear a lot of people say bad things about Alex Ovechkin. People love his personality. People love the way he's played the game. People actively cheer for him, again, outside of the great city of Pittsburgh and potentially Las Vegas now. So, I mean, people are actively rooting for this. I don't see a downside to this. I think people want to see the chase.
I would agree with you on that. And in the spirit of the day after Valentine's Day, I think people love the chase. I just don't know that it's great for the sport for the get. I really think there is something about having this most iconic hockey player that everybody knows. And, I think if he breaks this record, on the one hand, I think it's great for him. I agree with you. I think people love the chase. People love this storyline. People love the Ovi storyline. I just don't know that I think it's great if it happens.
I disagree 100%. I think this gets more eyes on hockey, and it is kind of weird. Because, I'm at that age where I grew up with like the tail end of Michael Jordan.
Yes.
I grew up with like, the tail end of like John Elway and Dan Marino and, kind of all these people that everybody was like, okay, these are like the legends. And it
Right.
is kind of weird when it's like, you see like LeBron James starting to set all these records, Steph Curry set like the NBA's all-time three-point record, and then you see like, Tom Brady retires as like one of the,
The GOAT.
the guy who holds pretty much every quarterback record. And
Right.
I think, oh my God, like I was like one of my earliest sports memories was watching him as the backup at Michigan. And so it's like weird in that regard that it's like you kind of grew up and, kind of while you're half paying attention, all of these people are now starting to become in like the greatest of all time conversation. So from that end, it's weird because we're always going to kind of consider Wayne Gretzky the great one. But at the same time, like this is kind of a generational thing. Is this not a cool thing? Like, do you not want to see somebody as great as Wayne Gretzky when it comes to goal scoring? Like, do you not want to cheer for somebody to get history? Like somebody that can, you look and, you see Wayne Gretzky kind of applaud and, graciously pass like the all-time crown to him. It's from that end, like I get it. Like a lot of old school people, want Wayne Gretzky to stay the great one, just like they wanted Hank Aaron to forever be the home run king, which, for vastly different reasons in the context of, steroid scandal and that kind of baseball. But it's great for the next generation of hockey. And I think this chase is going to put a bigger spotlight on the sport in the NHL, especially now that we're on like ESPN, because even if you're like a casual hockey fan and you hear somebody everybody knows, like you mentioned, everybody knows who Wayne Gretzky is, and you're a casual hockey fan and you hear, oh my God, there's this guy who's about to break Wayne Gretzky's record. Like he's about to be greater than the great one in terms of goal scoring. That's something I think you have to stop and watch. And I think that's something that no matter how you feel about Alex Ovechkin, looking at you, great city of Pittsburgh, you have to pause and watch this and cheer for it. And at least be a little bit thing that it's like, wow, I remember this guy when he was a rookie scoring goals while lying on his ass. And now he's the greatest NHL goal scorer of all time.
And I don't disagree with you at all on the fact that I think the chase is really great for the sport of hockey. I agree with that. I think it's great to see him pursue this record. But I think hockey, you talk about basketball, hockey only has one Michael Jordan, really. Hockey has Wayne Gretzky. Hockey doesn't have LeBron James. Hockey doesn't have Kobe Bryant necessarily. They have.
They do. That's Alex Ovechkin. Alex Ovechkin's the next guy.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know that anybody. I just don't know that losing the one iconic guy is great for the NHL. Am I here for the chase? Yes. Am I here for Alex Ovechkin breaking some records? Yes. I just wonder if you take away Wayne Gretzky from the top of the pile, does that leave you enough to draw in more people? Just a marketing take. Just a marketing take.
No, I am 100% against that take. I'm gonna need to take off the sweat. Hang on, like this is how hot of a take this is.
I have upset Nick. I have pushed the button.
That is the take. That is how hot this take is. This sweater is now off. It is too hot in here because of that take. No.
Okay. No. I don't know. I think we need to keep Wayne Gretzky at the top. I'm here for the chase. I'm here for all kinds of other records being broken. I just don't know. I like the idea of having an untouchable goal record. Now, do I think it's going to happen? It may not. I can very easily see Ovechkin breaking it. Do I think that in the big picture, is there a part of me that's not going to like it? Yeah. And that might make me old or old school, but that's just sort of where I'm landing. And don't get me wrong, like Ovi. Like this is not an anti-Ovi thing at all. Like, I think obviously if you get close to breaking this record, you have earned it. And I think he's done things the right way. And, you can say a ton of great things about him. I really like having a Michael Jordan in the NHL.
I forgot the original point in this conversation was, can he do it?
I know. Yeah, it's
So
taken a turn. It's taken a turn.
Yeah, I may be doing math completely wrong, but by my math, that he's going to need 136 goals to top Wayne Gretzky. He's 36 right now.
Yeah.
And obviously still scoring at a ridiculous pace. Like, he's on pace this year to flirt with 50 gols yet again.
Yeah.
We talked about him, not showing any signs of slowing down. But he is 36. And as we mentioned, teams are kind of figuring out how to play him a little bit, or at least like minimize his impact.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the interesting thing, because if he's at this pace, he for sure is going to get close.
Yes.
Assuming he stays healthy, assuming he's still at the top of the game. But that's the big X factor, isn't it? It's going to be health. It's going to be, the talent around him in Washington is going to be a big factor, because somebody's got to get him up.
For sure.
So it's an X factor. I think he can do it, because the Capitals have a lot of great pieces, both young and old, to kind of keep him up and running. It's going to be interesting. The chase is going to be fun.
Everybody loves the chase.
Everybody except one person, apparently.
I love the chase. I just don't know that I want to get the grab.
So if he gets to 895 or 8, I think, what was it? Yeah. Yeah. So if he gets to 894, that was what Gretzky said. So if he's about to go on the ice and score 895, and he's just a wide open net, are we just going to see like somebody in a Pekka Rinne jersey just come to the ice, bodyguard style, down in front of the net?
Now, does that not make you also want to watch him not making it because I slide out and block it? I mean again,
we will broadcast your court proceedings live here on the Locked On Predators podcast.
That's right. We'll take donations for my legal fund.
Well, I don't know a better note to end on that one. Preds versus Capitals tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Preds looking to snap a 2-game losing streak. Find out tomorrow if they did it or not. We'll talk about the game here on the Locked On Preds podcast. Until then, Anne, aka Miss Ovi Hater, where can you find your work online?
You can find my work at ontheforecheck.com, and you can find me on Twitter at ANK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me on Twitter at _NS Morgan. Read my work at ontheforecheck.com. Also, be sure to follow the podcast at LO_Predators. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you think of Anne's terrible Ovechkin goal record take. That's going to do it for us today on the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single morning. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.